Welcome to another episode of Ask Your Doctors. If you are watching for the first time, remember, this is an audience-based broadcast where you set the agenda. You give us the simplest of questions. We look for the most sophisticated people to give them the simplest of answers. Welcome to Ask Your Doctors. Today, we are trying to save your Christmas because we know most of you are wondering, it's December, boss, can we still do something? So today's episode is about travel. Yes, there should be travel because the African countries have not banned us from their countries. So we can still be able to travel. So you can travel across Africa, you can travel back home, although I know someone that says you shouldn't go back home, but that's fine. In any case, I would like to welcome someone very special today. I've been holding fort with my other colleagues helping me around, but I would like you to help me welcome the other side of the brains behind this show. This is a gentleman that has had almost 4 decades of medicine under his belt. And I met him 8 years ago, late 2013, when I was at Jimmy Comes to Joburg, coming from the Free State, and I was so impressed with his work, and my destiny could not have been written any better than to land on his lap when I came into Joburg. He's an expert in medicine, as well as an expert in health messaging. And I've been inspired and I've been fortunate to work with him. Before I spoil the intro, Dr. Mhinga, welcome.
I think we're referring to Ramaphosa. I didn't need that big welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks.
How are you?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay,
We're good. Yeah.
Shout out to Dr. Pari, who was holding fort
Oh, yes.
while you were out.
He did a good job. I went through that.
Footage?
It was beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, are you saying we can still save our travel?
There are times when you can travel. It's safe to travel. Look, traveling, you can only do it when it's safe. For now, my advice to our people, if there's nothing really compelling you to travel away from where you are, whether you're in Limpopo, you think of coming to Joburg, or you're in Joburg thinking of going to Freestad, Eastern Cape, you know what, with all the problems that we're faced with, Corona in particular, I would say minimize it as much as you can. Because what we're faced with in the form of Corona, this new version, it's airborne, and it spreads very quickly. The numbers are going up all the time. Yes, it's not as we assume from what we've seen through our experience. We don't think it's that deadly. And I want people to understand this. You know, we as Africans, if there's one thing that we're scared of, it's a snake. But there are different types of snakes. We've got a mamba, we've got a cobra, and you've got a house snake. But surely, if I find a snake in my house, I have no time to look around.
Properly.
Is it a house snake? Is it a cobra? Is it a mamba? To me, it's just a snake. And I'll tell you later on when we talk about snake bites. I only have one way of dealing with snakes. I'll reserve the answer for now. Okay?
Keep watching.
Keep watching. But why I'm referring to these 3 types of snakes is because I just want to equate it to this corona. The ones that we've had, the beta, the delta, and now this new one.
Yeah.
I'll equate the new one to maybe a house snake.
Okay.
It looks scary like all the other snakes, but the damage that it causes to your body so far, I don't think it's not that virulent. You know, we've gone through the cobra and the mamba of the coronas, but this one, I can tell you, from my experience, for the past 3 weeks, we've seen COVID patients who are positive. I don't remember admitting not a single one.
Okay.
Not a single.
That's encouraging.
It is encouraging, you know, but the symptoms are basically just like flu.
Okay.
And even the management, we manage it just like flu. But don't stop taking the very basic non-pharmaceutical methods of preventing the spread. That's all that we need to do. And of course, the only thing that you may add to the previous ones is that instead of standing 1.5 meters away from each other, maybe increase the distance a little bit more. Maybe to 2 meters or
Like
2.5 meters.
even where we are now?
Yeah, we're too close. Fortunately, I don't know about you.
Okay.
But it's. I think we're still safe for now. So
No, we've done our boosters and everything.
we've done our boosters. So I would say, because the danger of living where you are to go to another province is that you are faced with problems or challenges of parties, and we've got the older folks there, we've got people who are not too well at our places, and there's going to be a super spreader. And we come back here in January, then we're going to be faced with a very, very serious challenge. Yeah, so that's my advice to people, to say, I know I'm not doing the family meeting, but I'm taking this opportunity to say, if it's not binding, if you're not compelled to go, stay where you are and save your life, and the lives of other people that you love.
Okay. We'll go back to some of that talk, but you're not doing yourself a favor. I'm introducing you nicely, and you're just warning, don't. Let's say today's show is structured around this. Let's say you get a chance to say, we've been working the whole year, I'm going to take a break. Let's find the safest way to still continue to take a break. Okay, so I just wanted to, we've done this for our other guest talk. Remember, our show is educational. So we've told people what an interventional radiologist is, what a virologist is, whatever. You may think that being a dentist is simple, everyone understands. Believe me, there are people who don't understand. So Doc, your passion with health messaging, your passion with medicine, your passion with travel medicine, can you just tell me very briefly, for the benefit of our audience, what is your background?
Well, you have to be a doctor, a primary doctor first, and then you pick up. You pick up from what you have, which is your primary medicine, and then you study what we call travel health. Okay. It looks very simple, and of course, most people, when they think about travel health, they think you are a traveling doctor. No, you are a travel doctor. We are in contact with the rest of the world about the diseases that occur in other countries and other continents, and depending on the weather conditions, on the climatic conditions, all the diseases that, because every continent or every country has got its own specific problems at any time of the year. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if I come from Zimbabwe, for example, or I come from Mozambique, for me to travel to UK in this time of the year,
you need to know that it's colder that side.
Of course, you have to know that it's colder that side. You want to know what are the challenges that these people are facing. Okay? But for you to be able to travel, because you come from a tropical or a subtropical country where there's a chance of things like yellow fever, malaria, you have to make sure that you protect yourself, not only yourself, but you protect people that you're going to visit against the things that you may be carrying in your body. So that's why they require you to come to produce a travel certificate. Okay. And of course, the most important thing currently is the yellow fever. You have to make sure that if you come from a yellow fever a designated area, you have to make sure that you have to produce that certificate, and vice versa. Guys who are coming from other countries into our country, we want to know, and of course we know what people have in those countries, because we are on a regular updates about the medical conditions in that country. So we have to advise people before they come in. Our embassies will say, listen, you cannot come into our country without this kind of documents. So we interact with them.
So is there something there that inspired you to say
it is.
You are interested in this whole?
Yes, and I remember it was the first time when I traveled to Zimbabwe. You know, I was very excited after the liberation in Zimbabwe, and the only country that I wanted to go to, other than my usual Lesotho, Botswana, and Swaziland. You know, we used to call that a lot of travel. It was nothing. And I said, listen, I have to go and visit this country. And arrived when I went to the embassy, and they said, listen, you have to have yellow fever vaccine. I said, okay. And then from there, I started getting interested. They said, look, you can, not necessarily to make a living out, but you can educate the public about the various medical conditions in those countries. And believe me not, you cannot go to these countries without that kind of a certificate. It's not just a money-making scheme, but there are real problems. And of course, if you want to know what yellow fever is, it's a very...
I was going to go there.
Yes, I can see that. I could tell, I could smell it. It's a very funny condition. And the problem with yellow fever is that there is no known treatment for it.
What is yellow fever?
Yes, it's yellow because you become yellow when you're infected by this organism.
Okay.
It affects your liver in particular, and it attacks your blood, and it breaks down the red cells that are responsible for carrying oxygen, you know that.
Okay.
And then you have plenty of bilirubin that gets spewed into your system, and you end up, because of the bilirubin,
jaundiced?
Yeah, because of the color of bile. We all know what bile is. Because of the color of bile, this gets spewed into the rest of your body, on the skin, on the eyes, everywhere, the urine, you're starting to itch. But that is not the worst thing that happens to you, because you've destroyed bulk of your red cells, then you struggle to breathe. And if you don't get treated, and what is the treatment that it's a basic, I'll call it symptomatic treatment. So you have to, when you go to a doctor, you have to say, or if somebody takes you, they'll say, listen, this man has been to, for example, Kenya, and he didn't take precautions.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we know, as travel doctors, first thing that we want to know, is he vaccinated? If he was not vaccinated, the chances are this is actually yellow fever. So you have to make sure that you treat, the treatment is to try and reverse the process. And how do you do that? You have to hydrate the guy, you have to make sure that you give him new blood, okay, because those cells are damaged already, and you have to breathe for the guy for the entire period when he's not able to breathe for himself.
Meaning ventilate or something?
Ventilate.
Okay.
So you have to breathe for him. And in my entire many years that you unfortunately told the public about, I've only seen 3 patients in my life
who actually suffer.
Who suffer.
But you've done vaccines for many
years.
patients.
Yes. So because people do take precautions, and the countries do insist that you have to have that. And I've seen only 3 guys who actually survived from the yellow fever disease. But the stay for the hospital is not cheap, because from the day one when you arrive in the hospital, you are in ICU, high care, and that's it until they remove all your blood, the damaged blood, and replace with new blood. And then slowly you start to recover, your liver comes back, your brain, even your brain cells are stained yellow. So there's a chance that can even come back stupid because of the toxicity of bilirubin in your brain. So many things can happen as a consequence.
Okay. Doc, just 2 things. You say subtropical areas.
Tropical and subtropical.
Okay, fine. So is there a bug associated with yellow fever? How does it get into your body?
It's carried by mosquitoes.
Oh, okay.
But it's not a mosquito that is responsible for malaria.
Okay,
it's a different
that's our
type
next thing.
Yes, it's carried by mosquito, and then only thing that mosquito is doing, it's not coming to deposit that back into your system. It's there to drink blood from you. You know, we become the toilet of the mosquitoes. So when they come to you, they want to take blood from you, but they have to deposit what they have in your system. But in the blood that they're carrying in their stomach, that's where the organism for either malaria or the yellow fever is. So it lives it in your system. So you become a temporary toilet.
So in short, Doc, relating to our travel, anyone that's looking to travel needs to consult a travel doctor.
Yes.
Okay. We will go to 1 or 2 of our audience's questions, our viewers. They have posted questions on social media. But I just wanted to clear something with you. So the likely things that you are warning us about for now, you said we would talk about yellow fever a little bit, snake bites, we'll talk about malaria. We've touched on yellow fever and malaria.
Okay.
And at the end of the show, so everyone must watch till the end, because we do give you advice of where to from here. We're going to give advice pertaining to all the previous episodes that we have done, to say, we give information about this, and then we want you to know which doctor you must consult in order to sort out whatever you may be suspecting, or to do a regular checkup and whatnot. So, in short, malaria and yellow fever in subtropical areas that people could be visiting. You must know, our people don't know subtropical areas. They know Zanzibar, they know Vic Falls, they know by name which areas must we look out for. Kruger National Park, Northern KwaZulu-Natal, which areas
if you talk about Kruger National Park, you're not doing a good service to our people. Just next to Mhinga village, where I come from. My village. If you go Malamlele area, you go to Bushbuck Ridge, you go to Swaziland, you go to the northern part of KwaZulu-Natal. Those areas. Those are the areas that basically have
the level of humidity for
that's
mosquitoes.
Right. It's good for mosquitoes. And mosquitoes thrive there. And particularly this time of the year, with a lot of rain that we have had, mind you, the mosquitoes survive where there's water, which is not flowing. So when there's some ponds, you find lots of ponds, and you'll always find mosquitoes there, multiplying in their thousands. Do you understand? So they grow there. The weather and the humidity makes them so fertile, and they grow very quickly. And that's why
So that's within South Africa. And are these areas known for malaria or for malaria and yellow fever? Let's say, is there an area in South Africa, sorry to interrupt you, Doc. Is there an area in South Africa where someone needs to watch out for yellow fever?
No, there is no area. There's no area in South Africa which is known for yellow fever. It's only malaria.
Number two, is there an area in South Africa where we need to watch out for malaria, and are there precautions we need to take?
Of course. I mean, one of the reasons why you should, to add on to, I think the doctor will tell us more about the COVID stuff, going to these areas. And this is a problem, because when people visit, they say they are going home. And when you talk about home, you think you are safe at home. If a person like myself, of course I grew up there in Limpopo, and I'm now a naturalized a money seeker here in Johannesburg. When I go back to my village, I hardly ever take, and most people hardly ever take precautions against malaria. And then they fall victim to it. They fall victim to mosquito bites.
South Africa, you
within
still have
South
to
Africa,
find
those
out.
areas up to Messina, back to my area, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the northern part of KwaZulu-Natal. When you go there, even if you come from those areas, but the fact that you've spent more than 6 months away from those areas, you lose what we call the immunity against those malarias. So you become like a stranger. So please take precautions.
Okay. So, who do they go to for precautions? Do we visit a travel doctor?
Of course, no, you don't have to visit a travel doctor for the treatment, because I suppose every doctor, a basic doctor, will understand this. But the thing is, some of them may not ask you these questions. Where, if you go to a doctor now and say, listen, I have a headache, I'm feeling feverish, I've got muscle aches, and I feel like I'm dizzy and nauseous, he's probably not going to ask you.
Let's say preventative.
That's right. No, preventative, you have to go to a travel doctor. That's the work of a travel doctor. It's different, because remember I told you in the beginning that you stack up. You study more to become a travel doctor. So you know all those things. You advise people, and that's the work of a travel doctor, to advise them where the problems are going to be, what they are likely to encounter. So you give them what is necessary to prevent them from getting these diseases.
Okay. I'm looking at the questions, and I think we've answered most of them. One has to do with, what if I get sick in the country that I'm traveling in? What should I do? painted a very bad picture about yellow fever. So we can't allow anyone to get sick. We must do precautions. So you are saying visit a travel doctor. That was the next question.
That's right. You visited, but I mean, we've looked after very many groups of people in this country. The soccer teams, the people who are visiting from different companies, they always consult us before they travel.
Okay.
So because not that there is yellow fever here, but they are likely to get yellow fever from where they are visiting, and when they come back, or if you prolong your stay in that particular country, because it takes about between 7 to 21 days before you can actually start showing symptoms. So if you are going to prolong your stay there and you develop yellow fever, for example, here in Zanzibar, they may not be able to treat you sufficiently.
So prevention.
It's not expensive, it's very cheap to get that kind
Travel
of prevention.
doctor.
And it will last you for up to about minimum 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean the vaccination
The
that you get
vaccination,
from there?
one injection,
Okay.
will last you for about 10 years.
For malaria, what do we take?
For malaria, well, there is no vaccine yet approved. There's a talk of a vaccine against malaria. It hasn't been approved, but for now, people are given tablets that they take on a regular basis, on a daily basis, whenever they start a day before they travel, and you take these tablets every day of your stay in that country. Okay, you will be bitten by mosquitoes, but those scallops, when they get into your system, they will die. Okay. That's what the medication is there for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's cheap to do.
You mean the bugs that are transmitted
That's
by
right.
the mosquito?
They will die. They won't be able to multiply because people really get so sick. I mean, they come back here in January, the first week of January, it's a disaster with practices that are
I know, I've seen your practice in January.
That's right.
Especially when people were able to go to Indonesia and
That's right.
Phuket, Thailand.
Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Kenya, you name it. Yeah. All these places in our continent, they are full of mosquitoes, and the ones that are actually responsible for malaria. So if you don't take precautions, you come back with a problem here.
So Doc, let's be nice to the audience. Someone says, I've already booked and I worked the whole year knowing that I will take a break. I can't stay in Joburg. And
let them travel, but they must take precautions. While here, we'll publish the number where they can get us. There's quite a lot of us in this country who are practicing as travel doctors. And they would publish the number and the email address and everything. People call all the time to say, I'm traveling to, you know, Zanzibar has become the honeymoon place for South Africans because we can't afford to go to Mauritius. So they go there. You are not allowed to go to Mauritius. You are not allowed to go to Mauritius. So before you go there, please take precautions.
And the other thing for the audience, remember, all the experts that appear on our platforms, their content is we're going to have a directory on our website. It's askyourdoctors.co.za. So what we will do, all the information pertaining to all our experts that come on the show, you will find it on our website. And then at least that's one useful tip. Doc, you know that we say here the audience sets the agenda. Okay? So the one audience member wants to know what they want to know about. It's got nothing to do with malaria. Let's talk about motion sickness. An audience member wants to know about motion sickness.
Okay.
How can they resolve that?
I don't even know why they use that term, motion sickness. It sounds so scary that every time you move or you shake.
I used to get it when I used to do those 1-hour boat rides.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's caused by what we call the vestibular system, which is the system in your brain that is responsible for the balance, and it's sitting here just on the inside of your ear, just behind the eardrum. Yes. And that is where your balance is catered for. And thanks God you've got one on the left, you've got one on the right. And the fluid that is in there, if you're not used to
certain
motions, it starts giving you feel like your head is moving. You become like dizzy and you lose balance. And because that is the center that is actually responsible for the balance. So to prevent that, we have certain medications that we can give you. I've given a lot to people who are traveling by boat to places like in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, all those cruises.
And Vic Falls,
So you have Vic Falls because you've got a boat,
Portuguese island,
the Portuguese island.
Kilowatt,
So
yeah.
if you know that you're going to be in a
in a boat.
and you're not used to that movement, have a few of those tablets in your pocket. They cost virtually nothing.
Oh, let me just be funny. That applies to most of us black people.
I know.
We never grew up with these
I
things.
know.
So if you're doing a boat cruise for the first time, just as a precaution,
I had my
carry
had my holiday spoiled the other time I was going to the Portuguese island in those big ship, and there were many people who were starting to have those kind of motion sickness.
So you became a travel doctor on the ship?
I became a travel doctor in the ship, but then because I ran out of tablets, so the only way you can break that, because it's also psychological, so you take a guy one by one to the top deck of the ship. You make him stand there and stare the furthest, pick up a furthest point and look up there and stand there for a while, and then it balances itself out. Okay. So quickly, within 10 to 15 minutes, the thing is sorted out.
The audience just consulted travel
Yeah,
doctor.
no, but they're not the ones. But go to the travel doctor will give you tablets against motion sickness.
One more question about malaria, and then we catch a break, Doc.
Okay.
Are children able to also take malaria tablets?
Of course. From the
Does it depend on the dose?
From the age of 2 years, 3 years, you can use malaria medications, but what we normally advise parents is that, of course, when you go to these areas, for example, if I were to go to Tanzania, those hotels, they all have nets, and they'll tell you that please make sure that you stay inside the net when you sleep at night, or your children should stay inside the net. But on top of that, you use these sprays that are so hostile to the mosquitoes themselves. So it will either kill or to chase the mosquitoes away. So you have to use those non-pharmaceutical way of trying to prevent. Like your body can take the tablet, but for a little baby, 2 months, 8 months, if you're traveling with them, it's all about wearing what we call flabby clothes. Make sure that you spray those chemicals inside the tent and inside the room. Close your windows, and you'll have a very peaceful night.
Cool. Thank you, Doc. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we will chat about a little bit about snake bites, and hopefully we can do a little bit of COVID-related travel, regardless of, despite. I don't know how to put it, but I'm trying to say, Doc, be nice. Give advice.
We'll
Don't be so harsh.
we'll give them very simple information.
Okay, after the break. Welcome back. Doc?
Yep.
Good. We're talking snake bites now, Doc. And like I asked, Doc, I asked nicely, please, before the end, tell us something positive about what we can still do. But we have a treat for the audience. We are going to be trying to tell you, regarding all the episodes that we have covered, we're going to be telling you where you should go, where you can go, and how to reach us further. So do not despair. We're going to give you more information towards the end, and I'm going to convince Doctor to tell us we can still save Christmas.
Oh yes,
yeah.
True.
Snake bites, Doc. You talked about mamba, cobra, and house snake.
Yeah.
Fine.
You wanted to know how to deal with snakes to start before the bites. That depends as to whether you are black or white in this country, because black people and white people deal with snakes differently.
People scream.
They scream and they want to kill it. Kill it, kill it. It's a snake, irrespective of what it is. We want to kill it and get rid of it. We have no, I'm not condoning it, but we have no patience to call a specialist who can come and gently take away the snake to a safe place.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yes.
And I must confess, I've done that several times. I come across a snake.
I take the fifth.
I take, so we handle snakes differently, and that's a fact. Okay, if you want me to be put a little bit of color in what I've just said. Of course, many people have got the patience to want to look at the type of snakes that they're confronted with. They look at it. Want to see, does it open up?
They take pictures.
Yeah, they take pictures. Does it have a small head? What is the color? And the kind of things. Listen, I'll be miles away.
Okay.
I don't care whether it's a house snake, whether it's a cobra, it's a mamba. It doesn't matter to me. I've come across a snake, and the only way of dealing with a snake, run away or kill it.
So is that your advice, Doc?
That's what I do.
I hike a lot. I hike up and down.
I know you guys.
Joburg
you
Mountains.
confronted with snakes.
And I know Sissy Vaughan hikes a lot.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah,
And
so-
but she's never come back with a problem with snakes. But you know,
Is that what she told you? Is that she's? How did she ever say she would deal with it anyway?
You know, look, snakes are. I'm told snakes are very respectful.
That's the first question.
Yeah.
Let me just go to the question.
Yeah.
At least one of our audience members is more pragmatic. He says, is this old and tale true that most snakes are more afraid of humans than we are of them?
So true. Snakes are very respectful. They love their space, but they will protect what they have, because the only thing that they have is the space where they are.
Okay.
So if they feel threatened, of course, some of them, like a mamba or a cobra, will attack. You know, but the rest of them, they just stand quietly for a while. You go past and then they continue, you know, slithering away. You know, that's all that you can do. But should it happen that you get bitten by a snake, I think that is the most important thing. For me, irrespective of what type of a snake that has bitten you, look for help immediately. But I'm saying this, and I know I'm going to be criticized for saying this, but that's a fact. Where we have most snakes in this country, we have very few centers where you can immediately, within an hour, secure an anti-snake venom.
Okay.
You understand? Which is sad.
Anti-venom.
Yeah, because there are certain anti-snake venoms all over the country, but they are not where most of the
They
snakes
are
are.
probably at the CSIR lab in Victoria.
You know, I mean, I had an incident where a visitor from the States was bitten by a snake. He was in Bushbuckridge, was bitten by a cobra, you know, here on the neck. Where did he go to? Fortunately, I don't know whether because it was white or whatever, but the guys took him to the nearest military depot, military area. That's where they managed to get. And fortunately, it was not too far, less than 25 kilometers away. And they managed to give him an anti-snake venom. And they flew him to Johannesburg. On that day, I was on call to actually do the rest of the management treatment. But we had to admit him because what are you looking for? Because the snake venom can actually poison you to the extent that if you don't get help within 1 hour, like a mamba, you're dead. Because it will paralyze your
It
muscles.
paralyzes, it destroys
It
skin.
it destroys your skin, it destroys your blood itself, so you're left without any protection.
Okay.
You know, so you need to get help as soon as possible. But I've heard of most people, a child is bitten by a snake at night, and then, of course, because they don't know where to go to, and then they just leave the child there to sleep overnight. I can tell you, you'll wake up dead one
So
of these days.
for most people who are traveling now, what's the most relevant piece of advice we can give them?
It's always
Regarding
better.
snake
It's
bites.
always better to find out if there's a clinic nearby. But unfortunately, our clinics are so poorly equipped with basic things. But if you rush that person to the clinic or to the hospital, at least if there's one thing that they can do, is to offer ventilation.
Okay.
Because the
Oh,
muscles
yes,
are,
yes.
yeah,
So-
at least they'll offer ventilation,
Okay.
and they'll phone the poison center, which is the nearest, whether it's Anini or Polokwane and the like, and they'll drop that as soon as possible so that you can get treated.
No, people do go to Devon as well.
That's
Other
right.
places
Yeah, I don't know
outside
those
of-
places, but I'm talking about my place, and I'm very passionate about it. So, but the bottom line is that seek help as soon as possible.
Okay, you answered two questions that come from the audience.
Okay.
It says, what happens to the body when a person gets a snake bite?
Yeah.
That's one question. You answered that. And what's important is that a person will be paralyzed.
Can be
Most
paralyzed.
organs, and one of them is the lungs, so you won't be able to breathe for yourself.
It's the muscles, and which obviously in the lungs, you are not able to breathe, and of course.
Immediate first aid, you're saying just rush them to the nearest.
Okay, I know you want me to mention this thing of saying, can you put a tourniquet just above the point of a bite? Please don't do that. Number two, make sure that
Please
person,
go back to that one, Doc.
you know, there
Don't-
used to be
do
this-
not
let's-
interrupt blood supply.
Yeah, let's say you're bitten here on the ankle. People will tend to put a tourniquet on the
Meaning
thigh.
they constrict
Yes,
the
they
blood
constrict,
vessels
yeah.
with a cloth or
You can't.
a belt.
Let me tell you, you won't be able to do that because the blood vessels are so deep. You know,
Okay.
you're not doing anything. You're
Okay,
just
cool.
you're just going to harm yourself. And secondly, don't try. They also try to cut with a razor to try and get rid of the poison. Don't do that. That will just worsen the condition. After all, that place is going to rot as quickly as possible. So you're just helping the snake bite to become infested and become more dangerous and unmanageable.
So for this travel season, Doc, one of my last few questions, we are limited to Africa, mostly Southern Africa, because we are the darkest of the dark continent that have been told don't go anywhere. Fine. Which areas must people be most aware of snakes when they go to?
Well, I suppose if I tell you that we do have snakes around
Okay,
certain,
Limpopo and what else?
but Limpopo is one of them. KwaZulu-Natal is bad with
Bad
snakes.
with snakes, yeah.
I mean, I'm saying KwaZulu-Natal, every part of KwaZulu-Natal.
Yeah, I know, even
know
this
that.
urbanized.
Even the urbanized ones, Zimbali, Balito, you name it. And you cannot spend a week in KZN without being confronted by a snake. You understand? So, you know they're there. You walk into your house at night, you just happen to switch on the lights and you see a snake somewhere stuck on the...
Yeah, there's even a program that's filmed entirely in KwaZulu-Natal.
That's right, because of
about
the snakes.
Yeah.
But you know, there are people, KwaZulu-Natal I think is well endowed with emergency areas, and they've got so many snake catchers in that area. So at least it's safe, you understand? So when you come across a snake, you find a snake in your house or in your car for that matter, call the relevant authorities to come and get rid of your snake, period.
Okay.
Don't try to do it yourself.
All right. There's one more question about people say do not hit the head if you trying to kill the snake, because sometimes they identify the type of antivenom that they can use on you. I watch too many Discovery stories. And so they say they can identify the snake by the head. Do you know anything about that,
Let
or
me
must
tell
we
you
just
one
leave
thing.
that
Okay,
out?
we can leave that out, but let me mention this. The easiest way to kill a snake without having to hit the head is just,
Run away.
but I don't want to say this. No, of course not. Any part of the body, as long as you damage the spine of a snake and there's a wound, it will lick itself to death. So you don't have to do much. Its own poison will kill it. Because wherever there's a wound, it will try and leak there, and that's the end of the snake.
This snake thing, I don't know. We didn't make. So, Doc, finally, before we close off, it's travel season. From just your perspective, you said people should not go home where they are elderly. Is there a chance that we will once be saying quarantine before you go home? Or, okay, let me put it differently. If you're a responsible person that wants to go home, is it advisable to just stay put?
I think so.
Pretend you're on lockdown 5?
Yeah, you know what? We have to take responsibilities ourselves. This craze, particularly now with this COVID, but I'll leave it to Dr. Mashishi. She's an expert on that. Stay where you are, man. It won't hurt. I mean, we see even now very basic infections with small kids. Because once you bring all your cousins together, they come with their kids. You find that there are 24 kids in the house. It's a party for kids, party for adults. You know, out of that house, one household, you'll end up
There
with
is
almost
someone there.
a third or four or half of those people are going to get infected with COVID. So is it really worth it?
And with elderlies and people with diabetes, high blood pressure, and
Yes, we've always said this condition, COVID, it becomes very ugly to people who've got other secondary medical conditions. HIV, TB, cancer, poorly controlled diabetes, poorly controlled cholesterol and hypertension. So all those things, as you grow old, these things start sticking up. So you're just disadvantaging certain people. Okay. So for the same reason that we say elderly people should not attend church services, should not attend funerals and parties, I would rather say stay where you are. The fewer you are in your household, the better in trying to control COVID.
Okay. Thank you, Doc. But now comes the fun part. Let's give our people useful information that they can use now. Let's start at the top, where we started with men's health. If a 40-year-old would like to consider, I see every time we talk about this, you guys start shaping your finger.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Doc, it's okay. If a 40-year-old wants to consider, and let's say a regular test for prostate, number one, where do they go? Do they come to the GP, urologist, or do they come to the GP and get advice there? Or what happens? I hear these days it's very difficult to jump from your home to the specialist.
Of course, yeah.
Especially if you're on medical aid.
One thing that you were shy to mention is that I specialize in men's health.
Oh, yes, Doc.
Yeah, it's because you're too shy to mention it, but I'm not. I'll tell you that I specialize in
I
men's
know.
health.
Let's save it.
That's my
Let's
field.
save it.
That's my field. I'm a GP, but I specialize in men's health, and I interact with physicians, urologists, cardiovascular people, all sorts of things. And I belong to the Men's Health, International Men's Health Foundation. So we share information. And we have quite a lot of people. And when we talk about men's health, we're not only talking about erectile dysfunction. Of course, it's part of it. But we talk about health in general. Wellness, where you have to learn how to look after your body. Women beat us all the time. Because if you find a group of women sitting together or walking together or at a party, they're talking and sharing useful information about their own health. I don't want to tell you what men talk about when they're on their own.
No, they talk about smashing.
You mentioned that. So useless information. It's a useless talk. And instead of say, guys, I have a prostate, where can I go to? Asking your friend, you should be able to do that. I have an erectile dysfunction, who can I go and talk to? Women do that, you understand? And this is where they beat us. And if you look at the statistics, women tend to overlive us by about 6 to 8 years because they look after themselves better. And they're not scared and shy to reveal their medical conditions to the friends and family. A man takes a long time. We used to have a lot of problem when HIV was the biggest problem in this country. If I give a report today in the morning to a woman to say, listen, ma'am, you are HIV positive. By the end of the day, she will have told about 3 or 4 people in the house, including the husband.
And taking medication.
That's right. Whereas a man, if you tell him that you're HIV positive, it will take him close to about 6 months before he can reveal to anybody, let alone his wife, his mother, his kids. They won't know what is happening to him. And that used to be one of the biggest problems that we had in this country. Of course, it's better now, but I'm just telling you where this whole thing started. People were not prepared to reveal the things that bother them the most. You know, so women share information, useful, constructive information amongst one another. Men, unfortunately, we don't. But on top of that, women are very regular in going for their checkups. You've seen women coming to knock at your door. Doc, I've got something. I think I've got a lump in my breast. Do you understand? And you massage, you check the breast, don't find anything, you refer for an ultrasound or a mammogram, it comes back negative. And you tell them, listen, it's okay now, but let's check it again. After a year or 2, they will come back. But not a man. A man men will wait for pain. And I don't know who told people that for you to be sick, to feel that you are sick, the only indicator is pain. And let me tell you, if you are going to wait for pain in these conditions, you are too late. Because cancer, hypertension, diabetes, any form of cancer, the first presenting symptom, it's not pain. So you could be sitting for 5 years with a condition that is sitting there and you don't know about it. So the best thing that you can do to save yourself is to go for regular checkups, who can have a foundation, some kind of a foundation information to say, I know Gomezi, I've seen him last year, I've checked his blood pressure, I've checked his prostate, it was painful, though, and then I've checked his sugar, everything. It's on my record. And try to stay with your doctor for as long as you can.
Because you mean the same doctor?
That's right, so that you can go back and say, I have this done. Can I see what's happening to me this year? Because last year my sugar was sitting here. This year it's gone up by another 2 units or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so for men's health issues, consult your GP.
Consult your GP, but the GP will refer you to the men's health doctor.
Depending on what they find out.
Which is ourselves.
Okay, sure. Then what about mental health?
Oh yes,
Handle mental health. So I'd just like to know, what do we start? Do you go to a psychiatrist, psychologist? Do you go to your GP and say, I'd like to have a...
I think the entry level is obviously a primary doctor.
Okay.
And every primary doctor is able to assess and make an informed decision to say, this is, yes, I can handle it, but I'd rather refer to a psychologist. Okay. I won't have the 2 hours to sit with a patient in my office. Okay. It's too long for me. I'm not trained to do that.
And this kind of person, sorry to interrupt, this kind of person is not necessarily someone that feels overly overwhelmed.
No.
I can decide that for the next 3 months I want to have someone look into me.
They profile you.
Yeah.
They profile you. It's always better. I've been to a psychologist, so that I can be profiled.
Okay, Doc, this is a regular exercise we will do. We will give advice to our audience about if you would like to have a regular checkup on 1, 2, 3, this is what you could do. So after all that is said and done, where to from here? That's what we'll tell our audience. And I would like to thank you for your kind wisdom. And now that you are here to look after us, I am sure the audience is in good hands.
Palisa, where's the invoice? Okay, thank you.